She stopped using the one device that could call for help, and nobody in her family noticed. She's 72, lives alone. We set up a Google speaker to keep her safer. It wasn't broken. It just stopped understanding her. And she decided it wasn't worth trying again. And that's how independence slips away, not with a crisis, with quiet friction. Here's what most families don't realize. These devices now understand natural speech. The industry calls it AI that talks like a person, AI that listens the way a person does. But these speakers used to require specific commands, short, precise phrasing. That's not how older adults talk. So when it didn't respond the right way, she assumed she was doing it wrong. And when someone feels stupid talking to a device, they stop. Google just changed that. And here's the risk. If someone already decided it doesn't work, they don't test it again. And a tool that could reduce isolation, support medication reminders, or call for help sits silent. Before last fall, you had to speak in specific commands. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Not, can you remind me when pasta is done? Miss the pattern? It failed. Well, that's not how people talk, and it's especially not how older adults talk. When it didn't respond, she didn't blame the device. She blamed herself. That's what the research shows. When voice assistant fail, users assume they said it wrong. And when someone feels embarrassed talking to a machine in their own home, they stop. Not with a formal decision, just quietly. One day, they just don't bother anymore. And that's what happened. She didn't fail the technology failed her. And nobody in the family checked because the device was still plugged in, still sitting there, still looked like it was working. That's the thing families miss, not neglect, assumption. We set it up, it looks fine, we moved on. So here's the question. What changed? Why does any of this matter right now? Well, it's 2026. Maybe your family member already made up their mind about this thing. So I'll show you. And stay with me because the third setting I'm going to walk you through is the one that changes everything. What Google changed isn't a software update. It's the end of specific commands entirely. Here's what that actually means. Last October, something changed. Not a feature, not a replacement. Google announced Gemini for Home. Google's chief product officer for Home and Nest wrote in the announcement, Gemini doesn't sit on top of the old system. It replaces it. And every speaker, every display that supports it made in the last decade. What does that mean for how someone actually talks to it? Well, here's the old way. You want music while you make breakfast? You say, hey Google, play jazz. Well, that works. But play something calm for the morning. Nothing. I like a little background music. Nothing. The device wasn't listening for the meaning. It was scanning for command patterns. If you miss the pattern, it fails you. Well, here's a new way. You say, hey Google, play something calm for the morning. It plays. You say, actually, something a little bit more upbeat. It will adjust. You say, what's this song? It will tell you. The context carries. No restart, no repeated wake word, just a conversation. Google's own product announcement named the problem directly. Their words. For years, you've had to speak to your home in rigid, specific commands. And they put Gemini specifically into that. And they put Gemini specifically to end that. Normal conversation, vague requests that work, follow-up questions without starting over. Well, think about someone in their 60s or 70s, someone who speaks in full sentences, who says, can you turn that down a little instead of volume down 20%? That's the difference between a tool that works and a tool that sat silent for years. You might assume this upgrade requires some new hardware. Well, here's a number that breaks that assumption. Google's developers blog published a number of devices getting an upgrade. More than 800 million connected devices, including devices going back 10 years. The device she stopped using? Well, if it's a Google Home or Nest speaker or display, it's setting. The device she stopped using? Well, if it's a Google Home or Nest speaker or display, it's getting this upgrade automatically. No new device, no tech visit, no additional setup. Google's own support pages confirm that. Once the upgrade rolls out, users can speak naturally. The barrier that drove her away is being removed on the hardware she already owns. But here's what that means for you right now. The technology is fixed. She doesn't know it yet. I want to stop right here for a second, because there's a version of this story running in the back of her mind, that she's just not a technology person, that this stuff is for younger generation, that maybe her memory isn't as sharp as it used to be. And that's why she couldn't get the phrasing right. Well, I need you to hear this clearly. That is not what happened. What happened is that she was speaking natural human language to a system that only knew how to listen for short commands. She was right. The device was wrong. The design was wrong. And nobody told her that. So she took it personally, and she walked away from a tool that could genuinely support her independence because the technology wasn't ready for her yet. Well, it's ready now. Google's Help Center supports it plainly. Users no longer need to remember each device name or special command. The burden has shifted off the older adult trying to get the phrasing exactly right, back onto the technology where it belongs. Well, this isn't about her catching up to the technology. This is about the technology finally catching up to her. So let's get practical. 3 things. This week, setting 1, upgrade the device to Gemini for home. Open the Google Home app, tap the profile icon, go to the home settings, look for early access and sign up. Google's official Help Center confirms the timeline. Gemini for home began rolling out in the United States, October 2025. The second major wave came in December. Depending on when you watch this, it may already be live. So make sure to sign up and put your device in the queue. Once the upgrade arrives, the device gets a prompt walking through the setup, about 5 minutes. So one important note, Google support documents confirms it. Once a home switches to Gemini for home, it cannot go back to Google Assistant. Permanent. For most families, that's exactly what you want. The old system is the problem. You're not going back to it. So setting 2 is where the relationship starts to change. Setting 3 is where it becomes permanent. Setting 2, walk through one reminder together. The most practical function for someone aging at home is reminders, medications, appointments, anything with regular schedule. The old system phrasing had to be exact. Set a daily reminder at 8 a.m. to take medication. Specific words, specific format. Say, remind me about my pill in the morning, and it would fail. It's too vague for the way the old system listened. But with Gemini, remind me about my pill in the morning. That will work. Remind me to call my daughter after lunch every day. That will work. Can you remind me about my eye drops before bed? That will also work. Her words, her natural phrasing, no script required. So don't just tell her about this. Sit with her and set one reminder together. Not to teach her. She doesn't need a lesson. Do it together so she sees the device confirm it back to her in full sentence. That confirmation is the moment the relationship changes. She hears the device speak her language, not the other way around. Here's a reminder. That's all it takes to begin rebuilding what the old design broke. Setting number 3. Introduce her to Gemini Live. This one is different. This isn't a setting you flip and walk away. This is an experience you have together, and it matters that you're there. Gemini Live is a way to just talk. No commands, no format, no words to remember. You activate it by saying, "Hey Google, let's chat." And from that moment, the wake word is gone. Google's help documentation confirms it. So you talk, it responds. You interrupt, it changes the direction. You follow up, like a real conversation with someone who is actually paying attention. Well, she stopped using this device because it made her feel like she was failing a test. Well, this is a moment where the story rewrites itself. But it only works if she experiences it herself, not if you describe it, not if she watches you do it. She has to be the one to say the words. So you sit with her and you say, go ahead. Say, hey, Google, let's chat. And she does. And then she talks about her garden, about what she's watching, about a question she's had for a week, but nobody to ask. And the device stays with her through the tangents, through the pauses, through the direction changes. It doesn't ask her to start over. It doesn't correct her phrasing. It doesn't make her feel like she did something wrong. It just listens and responds and keeps listening. So that's not a feature. That's a restored relationship with something that was supposed to be keeping her safer. And the only way it becomes real for her, someone she trusts is in the room the first time it happens. Be that person. Well, here's a scale of what's at stake. The Pew Research Center pulled the federal census numbers in 2025. 26% of Americans 65 and older live alone. Over 85, well, 38%. More than 1 in 3. Living alone in a home that, in many cases, has a device on the counter, a device that could answer a question, set a reminder, play music, or just be the voice in the room when the afternoon gets too quiet. When that device sits silent, it isn't a misconvenience. For someone living alone, it's a misconnection. She tried it again. Her daughter sat with her and said, hey, Google, let's chat. And she talked about the garden, about what she wanted for dinner, about a show she's been trying to find. And it answered every time in the same conversation about making her start over. She uses it every day now. The device didn't change. The design did. And that's the whole story, except for the part that was always in your hand. 3 steps. Open the app, sign up for early access, set one reminder together, and then say, hey, Google, let's chat. 30 minutes. That's the difference between a silent device and a voice in a room. The design changed. The only question is whether anyone tells her. So the next time you walk through her door, I'm sure you will. This is Han Brown on The Han Brown Show. I'll see you in the next one.